Criminal records are something you likely don't spend any time in your day thinking about. After all, they're complicated and they're kept in these filing cabinets or complicated computer systems. But if you think about it, so many people that you love are cared for by those who were supposed to have clean criminal records. You may have just assumed this system was working as it was supposed to. But there is something, a lot in fact, to be worried about. In our special report, we'll break these problems down into 3 parts. First, we'll show you the problem, the dangerous criminals the background check system missed. Second, we'll show you how these problems create a false sense of security and potentially leave you at risk. Finally, we'll show you how the problems can be fixed and what it's going to take. But we begin our investigative journey where many of you begin your day, leaving your kids off at the school bus stop.
The open school bus door. It's a moment every weekday when a parent places their trust in another person. For these parents, the school bus driver has the most important job to safely transport their kids to and from school. How important is that trust?
Extremely important. They take care of our babies.
This is where our investigation began last fall. That's when Whitehall bus driver Christopher Lidistansky assaulted a 6-year-old girl. It was caught on camera and Lidistansky lost his job. It would be 6 weeks before the state notified Whitehall schools about his criminal charges. But his case prompted us to dig deeper to find how many school bus drivers were arrested while parents and school districts had no clue. 10 Investigates found 4 Central Ohio districts with bus drivers charged after they were hired. The crimes include theft, assault, domestic violence, and even a sex crime. In fact, districts never received notice on 3 of the criminal bus drivers we found. Nor did Columbus know they had a driver wanted for failing to comply with the protection order. And then there's Kevin Kusar. He drove Columbus City school children. Last April, police arrested him after he pointed a gun at his wife's head and said, "Good night." He pled guilty to aggravated menacing, but until we told Columbus City Schools, Kusar was still driving kids to school.
When we became aware of it, through this investigation, we were able to then move forward and start our process.
Kevin Kusar no longer drives for Columbus City Schools. It's supposed to work like this. If a person working at a school gets arrested, the school district would be notified by a special system that is managed by the Ohio Attorney General. Fingerprints taken when employees begin working at schools are stored, then continually compared against fingerprints of newly arrested people. When a match is found, the Attorney General's office notifies the school electronically.
Now, in a couple months, we're going to have a better system, and where the information will flow immediately about specifically what that person is charged with.
We still wanted to know, why did it take months for some districts to get notices? And why did some school districts never hear from the state?
10 Investigates discovered a major flaw in the wrap-back system. It all comes down to fingerprints. Remember the Christopher Lidistansky case? Whitehall, like many police agencies in Ohio, does not fingerprint suspects of misdemeanors. But those misdemeanors can include some pretty serious crimes, including endangering children. That means weeks and months can go by before the alert system is triggered, notifying schools of an arrest. Then we found cases where criminals' fingerprints were never taken for their crimes against children. Take Jessica Park.
Last summer, police found her at this Southside gas station in the driver's seat of a vehicle. They learned that Park was there with a friend to inject heroin while her 3-year-old daughter was in the back seat. Park was found passed out and near death.
I was a heroin user. I had to go to rehab for 4 months.
Police charged Park with endangering children. According to Columbus police records, because she was taken to the hospital, no fingerprints were taken. When her conviction was sent to the state last November, even with her Social Security number, there was no record of her arrest because those fingerprints were missing.
I don't want my past being brought up to me after I've already dealt with it.
Now, the reason why we bring up people's criminal past isn't to harass them. People with criminal records can rehabilitate themselves and get jobs. But the law has special requirements for those who work with children and the elderly. And we're not just talking about problems with fingerprints here. There are so many people who work at daycares or as home health care aides who have criminal records, they're getting these jobs. So many people, not just families with children, rely on complete and accurate criminal backgrounds.
One of them would remake the bed or while I was in the shower, and money would turn up missing.
Jim Manwegan's home health aide, Diana Baker, got her job despite having a criminal record of aggravated menacing. That leaves a Columbus police detective questioning how it happened.
How did these two people specifically that we have mugshots on get employed? Don't know myself.
You may not have these people working in your home, but danger could still be next to you. The law requires that people who want to purchase a gun go through a background check. It's there so that people who aren't supposed to have them don't. When mistakes happen, it's the job of the ATF, the federal agency that polices illegal gun sales, to retrieve them. Last year, the ATF got a request to do that more than 2,400 times after the FBI discovered a mistake was made. So we've seen a lot of failures and the dangers it creates when criminals go off the record. The question we kept asking ourselves was why? The Attorney General's office runs Ohio's criminal background check system through the Bureau of Criminal Investigation. They keep much of what goes on inside their London, Ohio headquarters confidential.
But how big of a problem is this? Officials at the Ohio Attorney General's office won't comment on specific cases, but records can tell the story. You know when you're at work and your computer won't do what you're telling it to? You often send an email to the people at IT to help out. Same thing goes for the people at BCI. So we gathered the emails and memos those employees sent to their IT people, and after sifting through thousands of those records, we discovered just how alarmed those employees are with Ohio's criminal background check system.
In the summer of 2012, workers at the Attorney General's office complained that it's getting ugly with people looking for information on their background checks. In the fall of 2012, the state's computer stopped communicating for more than a day with the FBI system where all national criminal records are stored. It was fixed, but in February 2013, problems with the state's server meant that fingerprints sent to the state weren't being captured. Those working on the lost transactions issues noted that the system was years old and cobbled together. Problems continued through August 2013 before all the missing fingerprints were found and put back in the system. During this time, the BCI record system was telling employers their job applicants had no criminal record, only to discover later the applicants were criminals.
Who are these criminals? We'd like to tell you, but the Ohio Attorney General's office won't say. The Attorney General's office won't reveal who they initially tagged as safe, only to realize they missed their criminal record. They blacked out over 3 years worth of names, but we counted just how many criminals the system missed. More than 1,100, and these are just the ones we know. Well, Jerry, there's the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, that's SNAP for short. It allows people to use a state debit card to buy food at grocery stores. Now, it's meant as a lifeline for those in need, but we uncovered the strain on the system is allowing some benefits to go empty, while others have far more than they need.
Please try calling back again at another time. This call will not be disconnected. Thank you.
That's not the message anybody wants to hear when they're going hungry. Marjorie Miller is retired, homebound, and can't get help from the county agency responsible for food assistance.
If I wasn't getting Meals on Wheels, I'd have an empty refrigerator.
Her Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program card, SNAP for short, allows her to get fresh food that's far better for her diabetes. But in August, her card went empty. Not because she spent all of her $200 monthly allowance, but because the county's annual review process took too long. But there are some Ohioans who have so much food assistance they don't know what to do with it. 10 Investigates found 41 households with balances between $7,000 and $10,000. 14 households have $10,000 or more. That's more than many people have in their savings account. Franklin County's top household has $17,000 on their card. The highest in Ohio, nearly $21,000 in one Cuyahoga County household.
When you first told me about it, I was surprised. I mean, I've been involved in this for years, and I had no idea why they would have balances of those sizes.
Joel Potts leads the Ohio Job and Family Services Directors Association.
What we found in general is that these are individuals who are being extremely frugal.
Counties contacted by 10 Investigates determined the large balances are not from fraud. Federal guidelines determine food help not by need, but by eligibility formulas. Because it's not fraud, the benefits balance is never taken away. It just keeps piling up month after month. The money remains even if the family is no longer considered eligible. In other words, you can need food and not get it, or not need food and get help anyway.
Not an excuse. Frankly, it's a horrible situation.
Please press 1.
People like Marjorie Miller would just like any balance on her SNAP card. After all, she is eligible for it. She just can't reach anybody to renew her enrollment.
The state is in the process of building a new eligibility system, but frankly, I would contend 3 to 5 years before that system is up totally functioning the way that it's supposed to.
For Miller, there is one ironic twist as she tries and tries again to get somebody to help her buy food.
Well, at one time, I was an interviewer, and I certified people for food stamps.
After 10 Investigates contacted the State Family Services Agency, Franklin County reached out to Marjorie Miller and restored her food assistance. Now, after we contacted them, the state will now give county agencies a list of households with food balances over $5,000 so they can investigate any possible cases of fraud.
Boy, that's a head shaker right there. Are there any checks and balances in place for this?
Well, the state is saying that it's up to the federal government to really determine these eligibility formulas to find out whether or not these food benefits should just be allowed to pile up as the months go on.
Right. Okay, Nathan, thank you.
You bet. This family thought they would enjoy their creekside manufactured home, but it wasn't set correctly, leaving it sagging and sliding toward the creek. Now, we investigated why state inspectors are being blamed for letting this happen.
This Lewis Center home was supposed to be a retirement dream for the DeWeese family. Instead,
I'm on high blood pressure medicine for the first time. I mean, this has just been a nightmare.
The nightmare began after this mobile home was set on the lot at the Worthington Arms manufactured home community. The home's frame began to warp out of place.
This here is popping out. The door is so bad that you have to tape it in the wintertime because the wind comes in.
The wood creaks, the walls crack, and there's weeds growing from the floor.
Right there, right there.
We'll play a game of marbles to show you how uneven this floor is.
The Ohio Manufactured Home Commission has 2 investigators for the entire state, and the DeWeeses got visits from both of them. The first one, Gary Whitaker, did a quick check and found nothing. The second one, Jared Rose, found a series of installation problems, calling the DeWeeses' home unsafe. That inspector is no longer with the state, but he wrote this letter to the DeWeeses, warning them of the dangers inside their home. Rose declined to talk to 10 Investigates.
If it is set bad, you take it apart and you fix it right.
The director of the Ohio Manufactured Home Commission canceled her on-camera interview, saying she anticipated a lawsuit from the DeWeeses. 10 Investigates learned the first inspector for the DeWeeses' home, Gary Whitaker, was accused of falsifying his timesheets and missing inspections. The commission director stood by Whitaker, but the state inspector general's office recommended changes to how the commission tracks their inspectors and asked that Whitaker have to verify inspections. Meanwhile, the DeWeeses keep pressing for somebody to take responsibility for their home's condition.
If I have to take the money out of my pocket, I don't think it's right. But I am going to get it fixed. We're not going to move, that's for sure.
Now, if you think that your home, your manufactured home, has any structural issues, let us know. Let us know on 10tv.com. Now, we also have a list of the state agencies responsible for making sure that manufactured homes are built and set correctly. We have that list on our website. That's 10tv.com. Reporting live in Lewis Center, Nathan Baca, 10 Investigates.